Hey guys, how are you? It's Zach from Zach Loves Books. Good to see you again.
Welcome to my first video. This is my first time ever doing a video blog. I've never blogged before. I'm a book lover. I've been a book lover my entire life. So if you're new to this channel, please give me a chance. We're gonna just maybe pick a random book from the pile here, and maybe not so random, and maybe something I've read before. Why don't we start with This House is Haunted by John Boyne. It's definitely a good read for anybody that wants a good ghost story. So we'll start with that one. Here's a good one. Wind from the Carolinas, Robert Wilder. This one was actually recommended to me by my wife's grandmother. This is one of her favorite books, rest in peace, that she's gone now. It was just, if you're into Caribbean fiction, you'll really like this book because it's a love story. And if you're a fan of like Gone with the Wind, you'll also like this. Today I have a book by Susan Hill called The Beacon. You might all recognize Susan Hill. She wrote The Woman in Black, and that's probably the most famous one. It's based off a play. It's a ghost story set in Victorian London. That's how I came to The Beacon, actually. I read The Woman in Black, but I love the way Susan Hill writes. If you like beautiful prose, where you just savor every word, this is something, you should just savor every sentence, every word that she writes, because she writes so beautifully that her books don't have to be 400 pages long. This, I think, is just such an important book, Educated by Tara Westover, that when I find a second copy somewhere, whether it's in a little library or at a book sale, for a couple of dollars, I pick it up and I make sure that I re-gift it to somebody who, may have not read it yet. This book just, once again, proves to us the importance of an education, in this world. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People came into my life maybe after I had read a ton of self-help books. And I gotta be honest with you, it's like when I read it, I wanted to throw out every other self-help book I've read because I thought it was that good. But this one is not really motivational, as much. But I don't know, there's something about it. It's like a life-changing manual. I always tell people the same thing when I tell them about this book. And if you can get over the first 2 chapters, which are kind of like a little hump to try to get over, you might find them boring. He just kind of explains why he wrote the book. I remember at the time when I read it, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be good. And then once I got over chapter 1 or 2, I couldn't put it down. So, there's a lot of stories in here, and when you read it, there's a lot of times where you just read it and you're nodding your head and you're like, that makes so much sense. To me, I put it in the genre of self-help, and I think it's one of the greatest self-help books ever written, and I always recommend it to people. It's another one where if I find it in a little library or, at a used bookstore, or for $2 somewhere, or if I can get in multiple copies, I always pick up the multiple copies and I re-gift them to somebody who wants to read them. Because I think it's that powerful. Is it modern? No. Is it timeless? Yes. I think what the book is first. It's Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden. Basically in North Korea, you have no rights. It's a human rights disaster. There's no free media, and the media is state controlled, and people are starving there, and people are dying, And they actually say that when you look at North Korea from the satellites, or from space, and you look, at night at the Earth, where North Korea is, it's just completely pitch black. So, I'm sure there's power issues there. They're not connected to the internet. And it's really horrific conditions. And when I read about Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden, it's about this young man, Shin Dong-hyuk. Sorry with my pronunciation. But Shin, was born in a gulag, one of those concentration camps. He was starving. He had to do hard labor. He was forced to become a snitch. You're kind of trained and indoctrinated not to trust your families or your neighbor. He actually saw his mother and his brother get shot to death in front of him, according to his story. But then he was able to make it out eventually. This one was really brutal.
The thing is, this one I almost passed it by. I picked it up at a book sale in a dollar bin, I think it was, or for $2 or something. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this sounds interesting. This sounds like a couple of the prison memoirs I've already read. But I was like, it's about cooking. I don't know if I just didn't think, how could that be exciting? It's about him being in prison. It's about him being a chef in prison, and then he gets out. I go, how exciting could it be? But then once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. It was like a page turner to me. I literally almost read this in one night. It was like 2 nights in a row. I just read chapter after chapter. One chapter led to the other, and I was done in 2 nights. And then I was just, after you read an inspirational story, you're on that high where you're like, wow, that was really inspirational. And then
Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. And this is the original cover. It's also been made into a movie, but this became an instant bestseller, and I can see why. After I read it, I absolutely loved it. The cool thing about this is, when you get to the end of the book, she talks about, it's about the circus, by the way, and she talks about why she wrote it. She was in the middle of writing another book, and she came across, some archival images or information about the old circus, like the Ringling Brothers and things like that, and she was so enthralled and taken by the images and what she was reading about how the circus used to be, in the good old days when the circus was around, if that was your thing. Water for Elephants, just amazing story. Pick it up if if you haven't read it, you want a good feel-good fiction book, and one that I got through and one that I, love. I would read this again.
But I've saved the last one, which is my favorite, and this is why I really created this post. I'll let you know what it is. The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. This book was probably written in the early 80s. One of the first kind of, not even really a self-defense book. It's about using your intuition and saying that fear is a gift that you're given to keep yourself safe in situations. It says right there, this book can save your life. But the reason I love this book, and I always tell people about it, is because this really tells you how to use your intuition. This book is now probably 30 years old, but the wisdom is timeless. Guys, please share this one. This is really important.
Where's the camera?
Ooh!
Hi.
There, go.
Hi.
Look at
Welcome
the red
to
dot.
Zach Loves Books.
Look at the red dot.
Oh.
Don't look at the screen.
Oh.
Look at the red dot, yeah.
Welcome to Zach Loves Books.
Going to different bookstores, perusing around, being in the self-help section, I chanced upon
Daddy, how can you get cancer? Daddy. 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 Daddy.
Trying to film, eh? Trying to film B-roll.